Machine learning is actually a type of artificial intelligence where the software not only performs a task that would normally be done by a human, but it modifies itself over time based on the experience it's having with interacting with humans.
Fire up your mobile device, strap on your earbuds, and prepare for another exciting episode of the Agents of Change podcast featuring Rich Brooks.
Welcome to another episode of the Agents of Change podcast, the podcast that's for marketers, entrepreneurs, small business owners, and just about anybody who's looking to reach more of their ideal customers through search, social, and mobile marketing. This is episode 247, and as always, it's powered by Flight New Media. I'm your host, Rich Brooks. The robots are coming! The robots are coming! So, you're probably familiar, if you listen to this podcast, you're probably familiar with the Agents of Change, the characters, the Agents of Change. And if you're not, you can just take a look at your mobile device, your smartphone right now, and you'll see the three agents for search, social, and mobile marketing, the Agents of Change. And that's obviously not the first version of the agents. We went through many iterations, many sketches before we ended up with the three that you see in front of you. In the early drawings of the Agents of Change, we actually had one of the agents was a robot. In fact, it was the social agent. This is why I'm bringing it up. This whole episode's about machine learning and artificial intelligence, so bear with me on this story. So anyways, the early drawings of the Agents of Change in the sketches, one of the agents was going to be a robot. It was going to be social. I had this vision of like a robot butler or maybe just a robot host that was going to be the social agent. I think in that same iteration, the search agent was a dog, a bloodhound, if you will. However, it ended up looking too much like McGruff the crime dog, take a bite out of crime. And the robot ended up looking very cold and heartless, not very social at all. So I ended up going with the current social agent, who is inspired by the incredibly suave Billy D. Williams, and search ended up being more of the master and commander sea captain you see in front of you. There was also a moment when the mobile agent was a derivative of Maxwell Smart talking into his shoe phone. Mobile, get it? But I digress. And again, we ended up with the more Amelia Earhart-inspired jetpack-wearing agent that we see before us today. So back to the robots. Machine learning and artificial intelligence is a big part of digital marketing these days. So understanding how they work and how they can help us do our jobs more effectively and in less time is critically important. So today, we're talking to David Szetela, an advertising expert on all things digital, who's going to give us the lay of the land. Now, before we get to that, I just want to remind you that the tickets for the 7th Annual Agents of Change Digital Marketing Conference are now on sale. And as I record this, 90 of the 100 tickets that we set aside for the early bird discounts have already been sold. 2 went this morning, so now we've got 90. There's only 10 of the early bird tickets left. So if you want to grab your ticket at the lowest price possible, head on over to theagentsofchange.com right now and grab them. Now, I can't guarantee that those last 10 tickets aren't going to be gone by the time you listen to this, but the quicker you go, the greater your chances are. Now, currently our physical tickets, normally $349, are just $179. And the virtual passes, which are normally $199, are just $99. Now, I'll talk more about who's speaking, the agenda, the Friday workshops we're doing this year, and more about the event in later episodes. But for now, don't dawdle. Those last few tickets are going to be gone very soon. Now, let's learn more about turning our advertising over to Skynet with David Szetela. He's an online advertising expert and owner and CEO of FMB Media, a PPC advertising agency. He's worked for Apple Computer and Ziff Davis Publishing. His articles have been published in Media Post, Search Engine Watch, Search Engine Land, and Marketing Sherpa, among many others. He's the author of Customers Now and on AdWords display advertising and PPC advertising in 1 hour a day. He's been judged one of the top advertising experts on Twitter, so Agents of Change, please welcome David Szetela.
Thank you, Rich. Nice to be here.
I'm glad you're here. I got some questions for you.
Well, I've got answers.
All right, so let's start off with some basics. Just what drew you to paid search in the first place?
Well, I had a long career that had one common element, which was direct response advertising. And I had a couple of jobs in the magazine industry where we lived and died by direct mail advertising. And the keys to direct mail advertising success are testing a list, testing a group of people that might be receptive to your offer, and also testing the actual mailing piece, making changes in the coupon or the price of the whatever you were selling. And that always fascinated me. I actually have an educational background in the sciences, so the aspect of the combination of an art and a science, the art being the creative part, and the science being analyzing the data that came back to replicate the same circumstances under which you got success from the test, was fascinating to me. Fast forward to about 2004, I became aware of pay-per-click advertising, which is a type of advertising which is online on the search results page mostly, but also expresses itself through display advertising. And it had the same elements, the same characteristics as direct mail advertising, in that the keys were creating compelling ad copy, similar to creating a compelling mailing piece, and testing both the premise that if you offer this advertisement to a group of people, that group will be receptive, and also testing to see what the different ways you can word the advertising or to create the display ad would affect the response rate. So, sum it up, it was an early fascination with something that was not at all digital, translated into the digital world.
It is fascinating how much we can measure our marketing and advertising activity once we take it online.
Oh yeah, quickly, and with great precision.
So today, I know that we want to talk about AI and machine learning and how it impacts PPC, but let's start with the real basics. David, how do you define AI and machine learning?
Well, I also have a background in software development, so this makes it easy for me to kind of grasp these concepts, but let me simplify them. Artificial intelligence is really software, and it's software that performs tasks that normally require human intelligence. A perfect example is speech recognition. We've all had experience with, sometimes maddening experience with telephone voice response trees, and fortunately the speech recognition is getting better and better. So that's an example of software that basically mimics what a human can do, and does its job more efficiently and sometimes more accurately. Machine learning is actually a type of artificial intelligence where the software not only performs a task that would normally be done by a human, but it modifies itself over time based on the experience it's having with interacting with humans. A good example of this is what Netflix calls the recommendation engine, where over time they build up a profile of a customer and watches the customer watch videos, choose videos, rate them, and then over time becomes better and better at really knowing a customer and knowing what types of videos they should suggest for the customer to watch next.
Okay, so I feel like there's this Venn diagram then of AI and machine learning. There seems to be a lot of overlap here. If I understand what you're saying, AI is more about having a computer do tasks that normally would take a person to do, but like
Right.
speech recognition, I mean, it tends to get better over time. Machine learning is more specifically about machines getting smarter based on our previous activity. Is that
Yes.
pretty close? Okay.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
there's definitely overlap here, and one feeds into the other.
That's correct.
Okay. So this is, we'll call it a stupid question. I know there are no stupid questions, but is artificial intelligence or machine learning, when we talk about it in terms of PPC, is it something that takes place on our end, or is it taking place on the platform's end?
It's hard to distinguish between the two. Well, when you say our end, I assume you mean the advertiser's side.
Exactly.
It's really the advertiser. Picture it as a big machine that the advertiser is controlling, flipping switches and turning knobs, and the advertiser sets up the machine the way they think will produce the best results, and the machine then pushes a button, and the machine just chugs away and does its thing. Doing its thing in this case is applying artificial intelligence and machine learning to the tasks that need to take place to display advertisements, charge the advertiser the right amount of money, and as we've been saying, learn over time better and better ways to get more customers for that advertiser at a lower and lower cost.
So this sounds pretty cutting edge. How new is all of this?
Well, think of it this way, broadening it out a little bit. Computers have been around for going on 100 years now, and they have been growing in power in a couple of different ways. One is the actual core of the computer, the CPU, has become faster and faster, and the amount of memory the computer has to work with to move its information around has gotten bigger and bigger. So as that has happened, the complexity of the data that can be acted on and the speed at which the data can be shuffled around has increased exponentially a couple of times. So artificial intelligence has been around as long as there has been computer software, and in the PPC world, it's always been present in the platform in some kind of small way, but it's only recently been applied in much more complicated ways, aided by the capabilities of the personal computer and the computing power behind the platforms.
All right, so the artificial intelligence and machine learning are just able to do a lot more because of all this speed.
That's right.
So when I think about PPC, I think about AdWords, Bing ads, I think about Facebook ads, Twitter ads, Pinterest. Which platforms out there are using this level of AI and machine learning in their ad platforms?
Definitely AdWords, Microsoft Bing ads, Facebook, to a lesser extent LinkedIn, although LinkedIn was purchased by Microsoft and watched that space for some more complicated AI and machine learning in the future. So it's the big platforms: AdWords, Bing ads, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram and Pinterest, kind of bringing up the end there.
Okay. So obviously you kind of referenced this before. There's different elements when it comes to doing PPC. There's the creative, there's copy, there's images, there's bid management. What elements of these platforms are using AI?
Well, think of it this way: there are the aspects that you just mentioned vary in the amount of time it takes a human to do their job. Let's take bid management, for example. One of the key tasks that an advertiser needs to undertake in pay-per-click advertising, let's say AdWords, is to tell AdWords, this is how much I want to spend when somebody clicks on my ad. And without getting into too much detail, the advertiser needs to specify how much they want to spend on a keyword-by-keyword basis, meaning within the AdWords account, there are could be hundreds, could be tens of thousands, could be hundreds of thousands of different keywords that the advertiser is saying to Google, show my ad when a search query contains these keywords. So one of the tasks that is time-consuming, onerous, and error-prone is setting those bid prices, telling Google how much it makes sense to pay for a click, depending on the return on investment that the advertiser is after. So one of the things that it turns out that is one of the things that computers can do much better and much faster and much more accurately than humans can. And so that's naturally been one of the functions that machine learning and AI has kind of taken over to the benefit of the advertiser.
So it's certainly a time saving, it sounds like, and it might even be money saving. I can't say that I'm usually the guy in our company that goes in and does all the PPC, but I do remember from the times I've been in there seems to be like you can choose to bid manually or you can turn on automated bids. Should we start automated bids right away? Like, it just sounds like, why wouldn't I just turn on that, the autopilot, so to speak?
Right. Well, by right away, I assume you mean immediately upon creating a new ad account or a new ad campaign.
Sure.
And my advice is that the algorithms, the automated bid management algorithms, work best when they have some data to work on. In other words, you can't really automate a process without having a certain number of conversions actually happen upon which to base the future predictions about whether someone doing a search, for example, is more or less likely to convert. So my advice is to wait until approximately 15 to 30 conversions have happened within a 30-day period before turning on the autopilot and saying, Google, go ahead and control my bids from now on.
Okay, so we definitely want to just, if we're not turning on automated bids and we're basically just doing this ourselves, or we're just setting up kind of a wider net and then saying from that wider net, please now Google, at this point I want you to get a little bit smarter than me about how I'm managing these bids.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
I've also heard some people, and this is more on the Facebook side of things, I don't know if you agree with this, but a lot of times people will say at the beginning of a Facebook ad campaign, do not be looking for conversions, just be looking for traffic, because Facebook, in its infinite wisdom, will often find the best people for you. But again, they need a larger sample size. So that's why some people will start an ad campaign based on website traffic. And after there's been a certain number of conversions, meaning just traffic to the website, then they switch it over to something more like conversions.
Well, what you just said, everything you just said actually applies more to AdWords than it does to Facebook.
Okay.
And that is because AdWords allows the advertiser to kind of manually control the bidding machine, manually set the bid prices per click, whereas with Facebook, there really are only two options for regulating bidding. One is to pay Facebook on a cost per impression basis, and meaning that for every 1,000 impressions, Facebook might charge 50 cents to $1 to $2 to $3. Whereas the second possible bidding option is to turn over the automated bidding to Facebook. So I guess I would agree with you with one caveat, and that is it's really not manual bidding the same way that Google provides it. It's really manual bidding based on the number of impressions rather than the number of clicks to the site.
Okay, that makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, David, you're obviously a very smart guy. There's no two ways about this, and I know that you love this AI and machine learning side of thing. But as advertisers, how much of this should we know so that we can do our job better?
Well, I think it's best to understand the options. For example, AdWords provides about 7 different flavors of automated bid management. And it's not difficult at all to understand what each flavor does. It's really totally unnecessary to understand what's going on in the background, how the sausage is being made. So I would encourage advertisers, AdWords advertisers, and this goes for Bing Ads and Facebook as well, to become familiar with what the options are and what the effects of those options are, but not get bogged down in the miscellaneous details behind the algorithms.
Right. You need to know how to drive the car, not necessarily how the motor works, if I'm understanding.
Exactly. You are exactly, yes.
Okay. So one of the things that I've heard about, and I'm not sure if this fits in, but I've heard about Facebook's dynamic creative. Does that fall into this category? And if so, can you kind of explain how that works?
Yeah, I would classify Facebook's dynamic creative as artificial intelligence. Basically, you tell Facebook, I want you to take the following 3 images, the following 2 headlines, the following 3 description lines, and I want you to mix them all up and rotate every possible combination of these elements in ads that will be shown to my target audience. And at the end of this process, once enough data has accumulated, run the ad that is the best combination of the elements that I've fed into this machine. So it's a very powerful capability. Ensures that the best possible ad will run. Does a lot of what could be manual procedures automatically. There's one kind of gotcha in the whole thing, though, and that is Facebook doesn't really show you the winning ad. They'll run the right combination, but for some reason they don't show you what elements were actually elements actually made up the winning ad.
I had, when I was a kid, I used to have this toy which had like different faces and then different torsos and then different legs, and you could rotate them around and that sort of stuff. It almost feels like it's some sort of level like that on the Facebook side of things with the creative, where I still have to create all the heads, all the torsos, all the legs, but then Facebook's going to find the best, most engaging, most clickable combination. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Okay. So this is interesting stuff. Where do you think it's going? Like, if you had a crystal ball, where do you think all of this AI and machine learning is going to take us in the next couple of years?
Well, Google has not been shy in describing where they want it to go. Basically, they want advertisers to walk in the front door of Google AdWords and say, here's my product or service. Here are some of the dynamics of my business, like the profit margin I want to make. Google, you just do what you need to do to make sure that my messaging reaches the right people, and that the amount that I spent brings in a return on that investment that is acceptable to me. So that portends things like automatic ad copywriting, which Google does to some extent right now. It portends things like automatically finding the right audience for a product or service, and again, AdWords does have primitive capabilities that are kind of pointing that direction right now. So again, it boils down to Google doesn't want, and this goes for Microsoft and Facebook as well, they don't want advertisers, or let's say site owners, to become computer scientists. They don't want site owners to become even technical advertisers. They want them to just know their business, know what they're selling, know to some extent who their audience is and how to find it, and then turn over all of the decisions on what to spend and how to articulate the unique selling propositions to the platform.
Okay. If you were listening to this interview and you maybe had played around with some of these ad platforms but didn't really understand all the AI and machine learning behind it, what would you say the big takeaway should be for that listener after today's chat?
Well, unfortunately, the platforms are today pretty complex and not very easy to learn. I would suggest going to the educational resources that are available from the platforms as well as third parties, and kind of just diving in and learning what Google will describe as the fundamentals. You can actually, a fairly literate and computer savvy person can get through a course on the fundamentals within a day, certainly. And Google provides free testing. Bing Ads does this as well to make sure that the lessons have been learned. So that's really the place that I would start. And then I would get my hands dirty and start actually conducting campaigns. That's actually how I got started. I and a lot of people who are now expert in the field got started by advertising their own products and services or affiliate products, and just pushing the levers and turning the knobs and getting better and better at steering the ship.
That's awesome advice. I know that you've written a lot of articles. I know that people are going to want to try and understand more about it. If they're looking to learn more from you, where can we send them?
Well, let's see. I did write a couple of books on the topic. One of them I would be happy to offer to your listeners as a free PDF copy. It's a little bit outdated in that it describes user interfaces that have changed over time, but the fundamental lessons about ad copywriting, landing page design, how to determine how much to bid, those kind of things are rock solid and evergreen. So they can get that free book by sending me an email. My email address is david@fmbmedia.com. That's Frank Mary Betty media.com. And just put the word book in the title, and I'll send you off a free copy. Other than that, I would suggest that there are a couple of other really good books on the market that kind of complement mine. One of them was written by Andrew Goodman. Another one was written by a brilliant guy named Brad Geddes, Geddes. And really just, I'm afraid, I wish it were easier, but just plowing through material and learning the craft is the best way to succeed in this.
Fantastic. David, this has been great. Thank you very much for your time and your expertise today.
My pleasure, Rich. Thanks for having me on.
For a full transcript of today's episode and all the links that David shared with us, head on over to theagentsofchange.com/247. And while you're there, you can check out the agenda and all the details about the upcoming 7th Annual Agents of Change Digital Marketing Conference and grab your tickets while there's still early bird discounts going on. Well, that's all the content we have for this week. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you again in 7.
It looks like we reached the end of another episode of the Agents of Change podcast, and another mystery has been solved. But for how long? And what new challenges will appear on the horizon? Join us next time for more digital marketing adventures.